The gamers say we're retro, which I think means old but cool.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the channel if this is the first time you're here. I'm going to do a book review now, which is a book that I've just finished. And I've literally just finished it, so I haven't got any notes on this at all. So I'm hoping this is going to be a consistent video where I do review the book properly. But if I'm not happy with it, I'll do it again. So I'm looking at Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. It's almost 500 pages long and I've read it in 2 days. So that's not happened for a while, not a book that big. And I had the time to be able to read it that much. But ultimately, I just didn't want to put it down. And I'd get to the end of a chapter and think, oh, I'm going to read some more. I'm going to read some more. I'm going to read some more. I need to know what happens next. I need to know what these events are going to lead to. I need to know how this person feels about this. I need to know what happens now that this person's found out about this other person. All that. It really did matter. And I'll tell you what. That's all down to the characterization, the fact that two things probably. The situations that the characters get in are very real, they're very relatable. The dialogue that goes between the characters is so beautifully written. It's so beautifully written that I can literally hear the voices of the characters. And sometimes the rhythm of the dialogue and the tone of the dialogue is utterly the people that I know that, you know, I know that dialogue. I know that kind of speech pattern. These are real people. This is so well written. This is very real dialogue. And you know, I'd say one of the criticisms of books that don't get me fully immersed is dialogue that's a bit stifled, it's a little bit functional dialogue that is there to push the plot forward. This was utterly compelling because it made you believe in the characters, believe in what was happening to them, and ultimately you really, really cared about them in a big way. So I'm going to tell you about the plot. So basically this centres around mostly two characters. You could say it centres around three characters because there's a third character that's really, really important in it. Overall, there's probably about 8 characters overall through the whole plot. There's one relationship that is central to the whole thing. And you could say the book is all about that relationship. But the third character has a really important role. So Sadie and Sam are the two people that carry the book. Sam is someone that when he's really, really young, as a boy, he's in hospital for a car accident that kills his mum. This is not spoilers, this is in the beginning. He's in hospital, and while he's being treated for this this leg injury that's the result of this road accident, he meets Sadie, who's another girl, who's a girl who's in this hospital because her sister's ill. So Alice. So she's there because her sister Alice is ill, and she basically strikes up a friendship with Sam. Years later, they meet up again. They've already had quite a significant relationship in this early period anyway, but they meet up again, and because of where they are at that point, they kind of strike their friendship up again, and basically they get into writing games. A big part of this book is about the gaming industry and the art of writing games, the mechanics of writing games, the things you might consider, and things like, you know, using a particular game engine to make the mechanics work properly. There's a big part of the plot where Sadie wants to use a particular engine that would create another problem with the plot because of another character, and that kind of thing is part of the mechanics of the book as well. So it's definitely a relationship book. It's a coming of age book. I think they end up about 38 by the end of the book, so it travels through quite a long period of time, and in that period lots of things happen. And there's a third character called Marks, and Marx's character ends up being like the third part of this friendship group, and becomes their producer, basically. I don't think it's a spoiler to say that he becomes their producer, because it really kicks off once that happens. And it's not a simplistic plot. It goes lots of different places, and places you wouldn't expect. And the flashbacks are done really well, because the flashbacks are kind of introduced by the last sentence of the previous paragraph, but it's not in italics or something. It's just sort of starts that flashback. And there's lots of things in their childhood that you discover that inform what they're like as adults, or what they're like as teenagers, or what they're like in their 20s, blah, 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 blah. So there's lots of depth to the characters, huge amount of depth to the characters. And the way it's written, there was 3 or 4 times when either my heart sunk, or my heart raced, or I was genuinely upset. It was a really affecting plot. And I don't want to spoil it by saying what happens. It really would spoil it if I say too many things that happen. But they do have to go through quite a lot. All 3 of them have to go through quite a lot. And part of it is some of the other relationships as well. There's a character called Dov, who's a boyfriend of Sadie's, and that's a really troubling plot. And it's done in quite an unusual way as well. It's not cut and dried. It's not black and white the way it's written. But I think that's really effective. There was a moment when later on in the book where he was. I was very worried for her. I'll try not to spoil it, because of something he was doing, and I genuinely was so invested in the characters that I really, really did not want this thing to happen to her, because I felt affection for her as a character. I think she's the one that I felt the most affection for, but they're all flawed. Well, I say they're all flawed. Marx isn't particularly flawed in the book, but Sadie and Sam definitely are. They're definitely flawed characters. They're the 2 main characters. They carry the book. They carry your emotions through the book as well, and you do care about them, but they do definitely make mistakes. They go off the rails. They are vindictive sometimes. Both of them are vindictive sometimes. Both of them are a little bit selfish sometimes, almost narcissistic. You're looking at a lot of pride, a lot of there's issues about creativity, and like what happens when you've got creative people sort of competing, but working together. You've got a relationship, but a lot of people have said that this book is about love, and it is about love. It's not about romantic love, and it is about romantic love, but it's not really about romantic love. There is that angle in it, but the most important element of love in the book is true love, just relationships, just the love. This is why I think the book's so brilliant, why it works so well, and why it's so powerful, because the love is not as black and white as romantic love, and there are elements of that, but it's their need to be with each other. It's how the book describes what it's like when they are together, what it's like when they are at odds with each other, what it's like when the world goes against them, and because other things happen that they're out of their control as well, and where those kind of things happen, you really feel for them as well. But again, it refers back to the love they've got between each other. It's so well written. It really is so well written, and it's not like it's well paced as well. So a lot happens. So it does happen. You know, the pace of it is very quick. It moves. It starts the plot very quickly. You're in the hospital with Sam straight away. You're also actually it kind of because that's essentially a flashback. The first thing that happens is actually when they meet the second time. And then it goes to the flashback of him in the hospital. So, straight away you've got two plots happening. You're getting to know these two characters in two different timelines very quickly, very vividly. So, this is a writing style that's very immediate, but also very deep and multi-layered. The other characters, like Marx's character, he comes into it fairly quickly, but he doesn't have a big role until probably a third of the way through, and then his role becomes more and more important, and the way that his relationship interweaves with the others is really important. But the gaming aspect's really important as well. It's really interesting, and the way that the games are referenced is another thing that makes it real. So these are like Generation X age. By the time they get into the early 2000s, they're in their 20s and like possibly in their 30s, actually, late 20s by the time they get to early 2000s, I think. So, they are right at the cusp of the early period of complex gaming. So whereas they see that getting better in the 2000s, then they adjust what they're doing. So that sort of side of it's really good as well, and done really well, and done really authentically. And I think if Gabrielle Zevin isn't a gamer or someone who writes games, they've done a lot of research, because it definitely feels like the references are real, and the mechanics are of how these things develop is really important. So that's really good. It covers the issues of fame really interestingly as well, and how that changes relationships, how it changes your own sense of self, your own expectations, the public's expectations of what they want from you, your own sense of pride in what you've created. So their relationship with their games change, which I think is really good. And also, as well as all that, the way it's written, you get lots of different references to real life as well, which I think work really well. So I know that, like, what's his name? Ernest Cline's Ready Player One has been criticised of having too many references to modern popular culture. And this is a lot more subtle. I mean, there's a lot more depth to this anyway. The way it's written is a lot more layered and vividly written than Ready Player One anyway. But the references that are made are more pointed. There's more point to them. So I do think that that's a really interesting element of it as well. So you can, you might read some references and think, oh, okay, that's what they're talking about, because she's making a comparison to something else that the characters are bouncing off. So I think that's really good. But I didn't know what to expect. I read the back and I was intrigued by ultimately Sam. The thing that I got from the back was Sam meeting Sadie, starting up another relationship or rekindling a friendship, and then starting to write games together, and how that changes their world and changes their relationship. That's what I got from the back. And that is exactly what is explored brilliantly in the book. And there's even a reference, so there's a really interesting reference later on when, I'm going to try and say this without spoiling it, they decide to do something in the 2000s, and at one point Sadie says, what we did in the past, we couldn't even do that now, because culture's changed. You just can't do what we did before now. And I think that kind of a self-awareness in what Gabrielle Zevin's writing about culture now, I think is really interesting as well. So, yeah, fantastic characters, a compelling story. I could not put it down. I really, really love this. And I didn't know what to expect as well, so it's a nice surprise. And as I said, it's 500 pages, and I read it in 2 days. That's a lot for me. So I'm on holiday, so that could be an influence. But ultimately, I would have put it down if it was hard work, and it really was beautifully written. So I couldn't recommend this enough. Tomorrow. Gabrielle Zevin, really, 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 really impressed. Thank you for watching. Bye.
picture